So today we're going to cover Chapter 4, Section 3b. Today we're going to learn how to write equations of parabolas. Now, when you are finding the equation of the parabola, if your vertex is at 0, 0, you're going to use the information first to find P and the direction that the parabola is facing. Once you find that value of P, then you're going to plug it back in. So remember, when your parabola is facing right or left, this is the y squared. So what I mean by right or left, it's going to be the C or the backwards C when it's the y squared. That's right and left. When it says facing up and down, remember this is the happy parabola and this is the sad parabola. So this is when P is positive, both of these, and this is when P is negative. Now, if the vertex is not at 0, 0, then what we're going to be using is the longer equation, because you remember your vertex is going to be at the order pair HK. Again, same thing, right or left is going to be the C and the backward C. And then up and down would be the U and the upside down U. So let's go ahead and take a look. Now, what's going to happen in today's lesson is you're going to be given the pieces of the parabola that we calculated last week. You might be given a vertex, a focus, or a directrix, and then from those pieces of given information, you'll be able to come up with the equation that's associated with that parabola. So let's go ahead and take a look. For our first two examples, notice that the vertex on both is located at 0, 0. So we can use the shorter of the two equations. So we're going to use the x squared equals 4py. And remember, that is for the up and down. And then the y squared equals 4px. That's for the left and the right graph. So what I recommend you do is graph the given so you can see which one of these two you're going to be using. Now, you could also memorize that whenever the number, when it's the vertex is at 0, 0, remember your focus is always the order pair P comma 0, and this is the P is in the non-squared variable spot. But let's go ahead and let me graph it. So I'm going to go ahead and graph my vertex at 0, 0, and I'm going to graph my focus, which is the order pair 2 comma 0. So this is the focus. This is the vertex. Remember, your parabola always surrounds the focus. So I can see that this is opening to the left, to the right. So this tells me that it's going to be the y squared parabola. So I'm going to be using y squared equals 4px. It's opening to the right. So now what I need to do is find my p-value. Now, again, if you memorize that when it opens to the right, that the p-value in your focus order pair is always in the non-squared variable part. So this is my p-value, p equals 2. Now, if you've graphed it and you can count the spaces, you can also see that your p-value is the distance the focus is from the vertex. And you can see that it's 2 spaces away here. So either way, you can either get it from the focus order pair or you can count the spaces. Now what I need to do is plug in that p-value and then multiply 4 times 2. And my equation for this parabola is going to be y squared equals 8x. Now notice here, my p-value is in the y spot. So again, if you want to memorize that when the p-value is in the non-squared variable, the formula is going to be x squared equals 4py. It was in the y spot. Y is the non-squared variable. Again, graph it. Give yourself a visual. So my vertex is at 0, 0. My focus is the ordered pair 0, 3/8. So I'll put my focus right here, just above that vertex. And again, remember the parabola always surrounds. The parabola always surrounds the focus. Notice the distance between the vertex and the focus is 3/8. It's 3/8 away, but you could again get it from the focus ordered pair. So my p-value is 3/8. So I'm going to plug in 3/8 for p. X squared equals 4 times 3/8y. X squared equals 12/8y. X squared equals 3/2y. Over here, when you multiplied this, if you would have preferred to simplify it before you multiplied, you could have done that. Make that a 1, make that a 2, and then it would have gone right to 3/2. Either way on getting your equation, it has to be simplified. All right, so for the next one, again, it always helps to give myself a visual. But again, since the vertex is at 0, 0, this is your p-value. And again, this is also going to be the distance that the vertex is from the focus. So if I graph it, my vertex is at 0, 0. My focus is at 2/3, 0. I can put it here. Focus, 2/3, 0. And again, your parabola surrounds it. Notice it's the C, and it's opening to the right. So this tells me it's going to be the y squared equation. So y squared equals 4px. And again, my p-value, again, is the distance that blue dot is from the green, or I can get it right here. So let's plug it in. 4 times 2/3 x. Multiply it. Nothing simplifies here. So it's just going to be 8/3 x. The next one, same thing. Vertex is still at 0, 0. But notice this time, they did not give me the focus point. So this one's going to involve a little bit more work. So let me go ahead and get this graphed so I can give myself a visual. So I have my vertex at 0, 0. And then they gave me an ordered pair, -2 and 12. So let's say it's way up here. So remember, when you have an ordered pair, the first number in the ordered pair is your x. The second number is y. So what I'm going to do is, because my parabola is going to come and connect with this, I can already see that it's going to be the happy parabola that's opening upward. So the equation I'm going to be using is x squared equals 4py. Another clue is the words here, vertical axis. So whenever your graph is vertical, it's up and down. And in this case, when it's a happy parabola, my p-value here is going to be positive. If it would have said horizontal, then it would have been left, right, and it would have been the y squared equals 4px. So you watch the wording on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this equation, and this time I'm replacing x and y with my ordered pair that they gave me. So x squared equals 4py. I'm going to replace x with -2. I'm going to replace y with 12. And I'm solving for p. So I get 4 equals 4 times 12, 48p. Divide by 48. And p is 48, 4 over 48, which simplifies to 1/12. Now that I found the p-value, I need to plug it back in to get my final answer. So x squared equals 4py. I'm going to replace p with 112. I'm going to multiply it by 4. So x squared equals 4 times 112 y. Once I multiply this, I get x squared equals 4/12 y. Again, simplify this and make this 1/3. So x squared equals 1/3 y. An equivalent to this of what we're used to is really y equals 3x squared. So this is what we would have been used to graphing for parabolas. But again, recognize both, that they both end up producing the same graph. But what I want to see in your answer and what WebAssign wants to see is this right here.
This one, or we can use.
As soon as you see your given for your vertex is not at 0, 0, remember this is going to be your H and your K. They're giving us the focus. Now remember, the focus has the p-value added to that vertex. So here it's going to be beneficial to graph it to see which equation we're using. So my vertex is here at +1, +3. My focus is the order pair -1, +3. Remember that the focus is always on that axis of symmetry. And also remember that the parabola surrounds the focus. So this is the backward C. So this is going to be the y squared equation. And notice my p-value is going to be negative when it's backwards. So the equation I'm using is going to be y minus k squared. Remember, k is always with y, 4p x minus h. Now, I need to figure out how many spaces away is the green dot from the blue. If you've got a visual and a graph, you can count the spaces. And notice it's 2 spaces away. Now, you could also do the distance formula between your vertex and your focus. Shortcut, if it's a horizontal line, you're just going to subtract the 2 x values or count the spaces. So my p-value, it's got a distance of 2, but because it's the backwards C, my p-value is -2. So you could either subtract, you could do -1 minus 1 and get -2. If you were to do 1 minus -1, you would get +2. Just remember, because when you gave yourself the visual, it's the backwards C, so you would have to change this +2 to a -2. Remember, distance is never negative. When you did this, you had to actually technically absolute value this to make it positive to get a distance. But because it's a backward C, my p-value is -2. So I'm going to plug in my vertex, which is the order pair 1, 3. So y minus 3 squared, 4 times -2, x minus 1. Y minus 3, all I have to do is multiply the 4 and the -2, and then leave everything else alone. So again, let's give ourselves a visual. Vertex is at 0, 0. This time they didn't give us the focus, they gave us the directrix. So my directrix is at the order pair y equals 1. So it's this line here. Remember, the directrix is always on the back side of the parabola. So this would be a upside down U. So the equation I'm using is the x squared equals 4py. And again, I can go ahead, remember when you plug it into the directrix, it's the opposite of p. So really what went in here for p was equal to -1. So I can go ahead and take my x squared equals 4py, plug in -1 for p, and my answer is x squared equals -4y. Next one, vertex at 0, 0 still. And again, another directrix question. So let's go ahead and graph it. Vertex 0, 0. Directrix at x equals 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So here's my directrix. Remember what went in here was the opposite of p. So p is equal to -4. So again, the directrix is always on the back side. So this is going to be the y squared. So y squared equals 4px. Plug in -4 for p. And y squared equals -16x. And you're done. Next one, same thing. This time, vertical axis. So again, vertical is up and down. And again, my vertex is at 0, 0. So let's give myself a visual here. So I have my vertex at 0, 0. And then it's going through the order pair, -2, -2. So over here. So parabola facing downward. So equation x squared equals 4py. Again, I'm going to use this as x and y. And I need to solve for p. So -2 squared, 4p times -2, 4 equals, actually -8p. Divide both sides by -8. -4/8 equals p, which simplifies to -1/2. I now need to take that p value and I need to plug it in. X squared equals 4py. X squared equals 4 times -1/2y. X squared equals -2y. And that's your final answer. Next one. Again, give yourself a visual. This time we're going to use the HK because this is H, this is K. So let me go ahead and graph it. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. My vertex is at 3, 2. My focus is the order pair 1, 2. And again, remember your parabola surrounds it. So it's the backward C. So my p-value is going to be negative. So I'm going to go ahead and write down the equation I'm using. So y minus h squared for y minus k. And then x minus h. So let me fill in. Y minus 3, no, y minus 2 squared for p, and I need to find the p value. Now, let me go ahead and stop here. So I can either look at the two numbers that are different, which is the 3. So 3 minus 1 is 2, but it's the backwards C, so my p-value is -2. So -2, x minus 3, and then y minus 2 squared, multiply, and I get -8 times x minus 3. Now, if you're actually doing the distance, just remember that you need to look at your visual to determine, do I need to make that p-value positive or negative depending on the opening? So whenever it opens left or down, that p-value will be negative. And then the last one, it's a little different. Read the questions carefully. This time that 0, 0 is our focus. It's not our vertex. So if I go to graph the focus, it's at 0, 0. And my directrix is at y equals 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, remember, the vertex is in the middle of the directrix and the focus. Now, because I have a nice, pretty picture here, I can find the middle. If not, you would need to find the midpoint between the focus and that directrix line. But I can see the middle here. The middle is this order pair right here, and it's going to be the order pair 0, 2. And this is my vertex. It's always the midpoint between the directrix and the focus. So my parabola is opening downward. It surrounds the focus. So now I can see that my p-value is going to be 2 spaces away, but it's opening down, so it's a -2. So because my vertex is not at 0, 0, I need to use my x minus h squared for p, y minus k. So let's fill it in. So my vertex, my h of my vertex is 0. My p-value was -2. And my k value is +2. So I'll go ahead and multiply. This x minus 0 just turns into an x squared. And then -8 times y minus 2. And we're done. That is it for the notes on writing equations of parabolas given parts of the parabola graph.